Hello, and welcome back to the Ladies Wrestling Grio podcast. This is another week in February, and we are going to continue on with our Black History Month theme and talk about a pay per view that I was really excited to see and that I am just so amped up to talk about because this was one of the best pay per views I've seen in a long time. And I actually was going to review this pay per view toward the end of 2022 in December when I kind of wanted to talk about some great things that happened in women's wrestling in the past year. But life happened and I wasn't able to do that. But I still think that it fits right in to this month and talking about some awesome things that Black women have done in wrestling, whether it's in the past, the present, or what I see as some potential great things that Black women might be doing in the future. So all of those type of things will be covered. So this pay-per-view fits right in. So if you don't know, over the past 2 years, Catch Magic has been putting on these awesome all Black women pay-per-views called Black Girl Magik, and it has been something that has received positive reviews over the past 2 years. And I'm kind of upset that at the time when you have these awesome promotions and pay-per-views coming out of the New Jersey, New York area, that's when I don't live there but anymore. I was born and raised in New Jersey, and now all these great promotions are coming and these great matches are happening. I mean, like dream matches are happening. It is really, I would say, more so in New York. Now it's like a hotbed of just all this amazing talent coming out of the area. And Black Girl Magik fits right in there with just having must see entertainment. So I really loved what I saw from Black Girl Magik, the first pay per view, but this one just took it a step further. And I love that it really fed off of having this event when you have a lot of buzz and excitement and a lot of people traveling during the summer to really give you that big time feel that people like during the summer. They love being out and about and having this great entertainment to see. And I think that Black Girl Magik really capitalized on that. One positive, and I'll probably talk about it a little bit after the review, but I'll kind of hint at it, is that I love all of the support that this Black Girl Magik pay-per-view had from a lot of different podcasts. They were able to receive a lot of sponsors for this, even though they deserve so much more for the great content that they're putting out there. But I just thought that that was great, that they were receiving all that love. And you're seeing with a lot of Black content creators, Black wrestling content creators, that there is many discussions about what needs to be done in the wrestling business, but a lot of them are not just talking, they're putting their money where their mouths are. And making sure that they're monetarily supporting pay-per-view shows, wrestlers that they really like, and making sure that they have platforms to be exactly how they like to be. And that's why I'm going to make sure that I talked about this Black Girl Magik 2 pay-per-view. So Black Girl Magik 2 was held in Brooklyn, New York on August 19th, 2022. And the New Yorkers in the crowd did not disappoint. Just like that Philadelphia type of vibe where you just know if you're in Philly, if you're in New York, many times Chicago, there is just a difference in those fans. They are definitely smart to the business. They do not like being disappointed, and they don't like for wrestlers to BS them. You have to bring it. And this fan base that was at the Black Girl Magik 2 pay-per-view did not disappoint in that either. They were totally on 10 for the entire pay-per-view. And it certainly added to the excitement of the night, especially with it being an outdoor event. You need to feel that energy from the crowd, and they certainly came through. And I love that on commentary you had Faye Jackson, who has been such a big supporter of women in the business, but I like how she specifically shows up and shows out for Black women in wrestling with just such a vibrant personality, and she's just awesome. So it was nice to see her or hear her in commentary. And Stephanie Hardy for Women's Wrestling Talk, and also has her own Hardy podcast. She's just wonderful. She also beams light, and she's just an awesome person and great at what she does. So it's awesome to see these two ladies just bring it on commentary. I really love their chemistry. You can feel the joy and warmth that these two women were radiating as they were proudly presenting this product to people that may have just gotten used to seeing certain women that were on the card being introduced to them, or they were really making sure they were selling for women that have been busting their ass on the indie scene and definitely deserve to get that credit for what they've been doing. And I thought that there was a great balance between Faye Jackson and Stephanie Hardy on commentary. They were just so proud and happy to be a part of the event and to call this tremendous card. I loved seeing Katrina, who's also a part of Women's Wrestling Talk and is awesome at what she does as well. Really step into this ring announcer a role that she's taken amongst many. And I thought she did an excellent job. She looked gorgeous. It was just, you can really see that everyone that was a part of this, not just the competitors, were so excited to be there. But I don't want to take up any time because the show was so good. So let's just dig right in. Going in the order of the night, we start off with our first match with Anastasia Morningstar, versus Scarlett. And I must say that I loved the contrast between both wrestlers. One wrestler was fully immersed in total darkness, and the other was surrounded by the beaming light of just being pure and saved. And I loved that Anastasia's manager happened to just be this awesome, I would say, play on the Black choir directors that we know and love in the Black community, and just really playing into that. And I also must say that I love that I'm starting to see, I don't want to jinx it, but it seems like we're starting to get more managers and valets back into the industry. I mean, people that have some really good characters. And I'm really hoping that that is becoming more of a thing, because sometimes you can have some really great wrestlers, but they really, really get a huge help with having a manager. It really adds to the character. It doesn't mean that they don't have the talent, but sometimes just having that manager or having that valet, it can just take your character a bit higher. So even with the start of this pay-per-view, I'm already getting excited because I feel that over the next few years, we might see a start to having more managers. So that made me really happy to see that. So right into it, Scarlett takes the lead in the beginning of the match and takes it outside rather early, kind of get the crowd revved up. And then equally thick, Anastasia starts to let out a bit of aggression. We see some hard chops from Scarlett, and that starts to get the crowd pumped. But Scarlett does not stay down for too long. An impressive hurricanrana almost takes Anastasia out, and there's a part in the middle of the match where both women are spent, but they start to have a little slap fest, and they really get the crowd with that. They really start selling people that may not have been that familiar with them. Case in point, me, but I mean, from the beginning, I started to get really into them, and they really knew already how to build up on the fact that it actually is a plus and not that many people know you, because you can surprise them with your skill and your style throughout the match. And I think that both women certainly capitalized on that. So after this slap fest, you see a powerful suplex from Scarlett, and I think it's a highlight in the match. Anastasia mirrors that energy and delivers a suplex of her own. Anastasia manager tries to interfere, but gets thrown out. This distraction does give Anastasia the time to hit her finisher and take home the win for the night. I thought that this was a strong opener to the show, and certainly I'm always happy. That's why I love indie wrestling, indie shows, the indie field, because it gives you a chance to discover some people that you may not see, obviously, on TV. So it was nice to see two new, I feel, promising wrestlers that really did a good job of opening. Is something to not be taken lightly, because that type of energy that you have to bring in the beginning of a show is not something to take lightly. It's something that sets the tone. So these women certainly did that, and I was very entertained by this show. By this match. Okay, let's get into the next match. The next match was Jordan Blade versus Bonesaw Brooks. You already know that when the competitors like this were announced, that this was going to be a technical match. These women immediately start to lock up and get some mat work in. Jordan really takes the reins early on, twisting, bending, and contorting Bonesaw while still taunting the crowd that's rooting for Brooks. Bonesaw tries to get the advantage, but Jordan just stays on her until Bonesaw hits the bejesus out of Jordan and changes the pace of the match. Both women start bringing hard chops and knee strikes. Bonesaw puts on an armbar that I believe shakes Jordan up, because Jordan came into this match feeling quite confident. And when she was really taunting the crowd, you could tell there was a bit of cockiness, that she felt like she could just take this match easily. And Blade, after being shooken up, pulls it back together and starts to work on Bonesaw's knee. Bonesaw comes back with some twist suplexes that are reminiscent of Eddie Guerrero. I loved that spot in the match. I mean, both women were just showing how much they had in their arsenal. We get some hard chops from both ladies. The crowd is on the edge of their seats, and Bonesaw gets an arm lock in and then lands the win for the night. This match was one of my favorites because, and I'm a little bit biased to this, but I am a huge fan of technical mat-based matches. I love catch matches too. I just love how Jordan Blade is such a silent assassin in her matches, and how Bonesaw was so beloved by the crowd. You can feel, I mean, it's a territorial thing. As soon as someone hears in the crowd, if they're in New York, that that person is from that area, as much as they may love the other competitor, they're going to root for the hometown hero. And I love that you had that type of atmosphere early on into the show, where you saw how diehard these New York fans were for anyone that was announced as a hometown native. So that was pretty cool to have that. I loved seeing that cocky confidence that Jordan had, and how Bonesaw was really making sure that she wasn't letting that get to her head, and she just stayed focused on the task. So this was a really, really strong match. I can't speak more of how great it was. Let's go into the next match. Gia Scott versus Demarius Dawson. I always pop for Gia Scott every time I see her perform. I just love her cocky personality, where she just walks around pissed because she feels that everyone underestimates her, and that she knows that she's been good for so long. It's just good stuff. I'm a huge fan of Gia. And I loved seeing someone else that I was relatively new to, which was Demarius Dawkins. I loved how both women came in. They really served up some good energy, where you could see the drive that both women had to win. It was radiating off of them, even when they were being announced. So I think it even got to the crowd quite quickly that these women were going to hand it to each other. And when both women lock up, they look very, very determined to take home the win. We get a nice takedown from Demarius, following by a headlock, and it seems like the objective in the beginning with both women was to break the arm of the other. So that was pretty cool. And no one can really get the upper hand in this match. They're just on each other. They're matching move for move and hold for hold. It's definitely a high octane match that features sound wrestling really good. And Gia starts to show off her strength and takes the lead toward the middle of the match. Demarius gains her bearings and starts to show her strength. A spear from Gia, amazing spear, takes the breath out of Demarius. And there's a constant tug of war between the two until Gia hits her finisher and she gets the win. This was one of the best matches of the night. Just like I said, the moment that both Gia and Demarius got in the ring, it was very clear that they felt. I mean, and I'm just saying this. I don't know, but it seems like this one makes sense that it was the objective of both ladies to not only win this match, but to prove why they were on the card for tonight. For that night, excuse me. It just makes perfect sense with the way that they were carrying themselves, that they made it clear in their heads that they were going to take the show for the night. They really brought such a high octane, high energy match where they were also showing off how strong they were. And it was a really good match. It's hard to rate what the best match of the night was, but they were really good. They were really good. And I think that they had perfect placing on the card because with them being in that spot of the card, it was making it clear they were setting the tone that they were very strong competitors to possibly be close to the main event, where you have to make it clear you're getting closer to seeing women that will always bring that high level of skill, but that they're reaching that status possibly within like the next year or so to start being considered as main eventers. So this is definitely a match to watch from this pay-per-view. All right, let's get into tag team action. Tag team action that I can't say enough of it. They did not disappoint. This was amazing tag team action. And as a fan of really great tag team action where it seems like you bring these two women or men that really belong together, I was such a fan of this match. I think I'm probably going to have to watch it more than once because it really was that good. But the tag team match and the participants that I'm talking about is Estrella and Maserati versus Thick and Juicy 2.0, Willow Nightingale and Brooke Valentine. As the names were being announced, as all the women were standing in the ring, the trash talking immediately begins. And Estrella and Maserati feel confident that they can win this match. The crowd is just having a thunderous reaction to Thick and Juicy as they are announced, and they hit their muscle poses, which I am always a fan of muscle poses with tag teams. You guys keep doing that because I have been a fan of that since the 90s, and I love that Thick and Juicy 2.0 still keep the muscle poses alive. It's not cheesy. I love it. And you can just feel, it's almost like you can feel the rumble of the crowd as Thick and Juicy are announced. And this introduction to this tag team match completely sets the tone that this match will probably be a show stealer. And I just love it because it's like the fans are dictating that. It's not even something that either team has done yet. The crowd is just making it clear this is a match that they came to see even when it was announced. So that already sets the tone that as a viewer, you're already getting pumped. And Maserati and Willow kick it off, and the crowd is a bit biased, including Faye Jackson on commentary, as we all, pretty much cheer for Thick and Juicy. Willow toys with Maserati in the beginning as she gets the advantage. Then Brooke comes in and continues to keep the balance for her team, tossing Maserati around and posing at the same time. A frustrated Maserati doesn't give up and keeps coming back for more. I think that is definitely a strength of Maserati, is that she completely understands many times when she gets in the ring that she is seen as an underdog. She gets that, but she never, ever gives up. it actually pisses her off, and that causes her to bring out this mean streak that helps her going forward. So I had to point out that I usually see that with Maserati in her matches, and I love that she has that type of fight. Estrella finally gets a chance after seeing her tag partner Maserati just get picked apart. She finally gets the chance to enter the ring, and she tips the scales as her size and height allows her to stand toe to toe with Brooke Valentine. A double hip check knocks Estrella for a loop, but she recovers and immediately works with Maserati to work on Willow's arm in the corner. Maserati and Estrella make sure that they work on not only the arm but leg in the corner and keeps her away from Brooke to avoid the tag. Willow frees herself from the attacks and tags in her partner. Maserati works to regain control. The knees are also under attack for Brooke as Estrella goes in and punches that vulnerable body part. At first, when you're seeing the crowd completely root for Thick and Juicy 2.0, I like that these underdogs in this tag match of Maserati and Estrella really prove that they're in this match for a reason. And they really make sure that they're not letting the crowd get in their head, and they decide to do something that is a classic but always effective, which is that they make sure that they bring Brooke and Willow to their side of the ring and really start picking apart their body parts and really making sure that they're wearing them down, or at least they believe that. And I thought that was really great tag work. I'm not sure if Maserati and Estrella have ever worked together before, but I thought it was great teamwork on their part, and they really impressed me as a tag team. So I really wanted to point that out because with such hype, and is well deserved for people to really love Thick and Juicy 2.0. I thought that the tag team Estrella and Maserati was perfect pairing. Actually, they really worked well together. So after Estrella goes in with the punches on Brooke Valentine's knee, a knee that has already been injured before, a hard slap to Brooke's face brings out that fire that she needs to get her back into the game, and a trade of blows commences. Willow gets that tag and pounces the crap out of Maserati. Definitely a highlight of this match that sends the crowd just off the edge of their seat. I had to rewind it. I almost jumped up, out of my seat after watching that great part of the match. Estrella uses Faye Jackson, who is on commentary, by the way, to distract Willow by going over to the commentary table and kind of messing with her. This backfires though because Willow is still on it. So I thought that was pretty cool to give a nod to Faye Jackson, who was at one point a tag team with Willow. And of course, she's rooting on her ex-partner, and Estrella knows about Willow and Faye's past, and she uses that to try to cause a distraction. So I love that element being at play, where you can see that this tag team is aware of their surroundings. They're aware of who's around and how they can use that to create distractions. So I loved that spot. But after this distraction, the action goes back to the ring, and Thick and Juicy use some tag team magic to deliver a double cannonball to both competitors on opposite sides of the ring. Another really good spot. The insane chemistry between Willow and Brooke Valentine, in my opinion, will probably make them one of the best tag teams in history. They are just that good. I mean, they're that good on their own, but to come together and be that cohesive is truly impressive, and I will not be able to ever stop talking about how great they are as a tag team. So Maserati somehow gets up after this double cannonball and hits a missile kick, but did not get the win. Estrella, towards the end of the match, seems a bit injured. She gets out of the ring and she is favoring her shoulder. So it wasn't talked about like what happened, but it seemed like she was injured. And it seems that At that point, you're seeing that the match just has to get wrapped up after that. So Willow gets Maserati to tap out, and that is the end of this amazing tag team match. And this is one of the best tag matches that I've seen in a long time. It's just such great chemistry between both teams. And the crowd is also an MVP of this match. They were so into it that you could not help but to feel really invested, even in the beginning of this match, as a viewer that wasn't in attendance. Like, I felt that anthem during the match. There were so many times where I wanted to jump up, so many times that I wanted to slap my chair to get a rumble, in the air. It was just such great work, and I can't speak highly enough for this match. Um, let's get into, which it would be hard for the main event to not feel a certain way after that amazing tag match before. They have to follow that. But both women in the main event were ready for that challenge. And in the main event, we have Trish Adora versus Karen Bam Bam. Trish Adora and Karen Bam Bam were ready for the challenge of keeping the crowd on their feet, okay? All right, let me just get into it. The main event, and boy, did they deliver. Karen Bam Bam gets an amazing response before the match begins as she's announced. The NY crowd is on fire at this point, because I think I have to bring this up because I think it really helps with the dynamic of the match. And we see it a lot during WrestleMania events, because usually now, over, I would say, maybe close to 10 years, if not 10 years, WrestleMania has been held outside. This so that you could have the main event have the darkness to come upon the fans, and you're concentrating on the lighting and the in-ring action. I think that this was perfect that the main event had with that darkness. The sun had gone down. There's a level of seriousness to this main event where you know that shit is about to go down. And I liked that Karen and Trish Adora had that, because there was going to be a high level of concentration on what they were doing in the ring, because even the environment around them was playing into that. So, as I was saying, Karen Bam Bam comes to be announced, and the NY crowd is on fire for her. You can barely hear both Trish and Bam Bam's name announced, because the crowd is chanting so loudly. It just gives me goosebumps now just thinking about it. And I wasn't even there to think about how this crowd was just so here for these amazingly talented women. So both women do the honorable thing. They shake hands before locking up. And after an effective arm hold, both women have a little competition, trying to see who can roll the best in the ring. Trish is not intimidated by Bam Bam. Most people are, but Trish is up for the challenge. But when Bam Bam hits a quick slam in the turnbuckle, it immediately knocks the wind out of Trish. Power bombs, hip checks, choke holds, and a stiff backhand from Bam Bam that Trish had. It made it very clear Trish had a fight on her hands. But Trish doesn't give up, and she gives a hell of a German suplex to the immovable object Bam Bam. This is such an important part of the match when Trish hits that German suplex, because there was a great level of skepticism, even from the fans, whenever Adora tried to get Bam Bam up off her feet and get that very impressive German suplex that she just does so well. So with that skepticism from the fans, even from commentary, it was amazing to see that Trish did not give up on being able to do this move. And when she finally hit the German suplex, the crowd went wild. So after that, you have a segment of blows and chops that commence. And this is an awesome thing to watch. A spent but very determined Adora gives out some body splashes and hip checks from one side of the ring to the next. Bam Bam regains control for a bit, tries to go to the top rope, but Trish hits a powerbomb, a very effective one from the top rope. And this just takes both women out for a minute. I mean, these women were going at it for a bit before we got to this middle stage of the match. And all that time, you start to really feel that even though Trish has had an Iron Man match before, this really, or excuse me, Iron Woman match, this really starts to show that there's more that Trish can take in a match. And she's really proving how far she can be pushed and how much she can take. And I would say, in my opinion, that type of endurance that Trish has is quite reminiscent to me of someone the caliber of Kurt Angle. She just has that machine-like mentality, and it's really awesome to see. So after both women were taken out for a bit, they decide to take it outside of the ring, and Karen hits a suplex on Trish Adora right on the bare concrete. Ooh, it's so hard to watch because you know that that kind of brings down Trish Adora's strength and energy probably tenfold. So Bam Bam gets back in the ring while the ref counts, and Trish at the last minute makes it back to the ring before the ref can count to 10. So this amps up Trish to continue to go on. She's pumping up the crowd, kind of getting them ready to see her lariat Tubman, but Karen hits the Samoan drop. However, Trish kicks out of this. So at that point, even Karen Bam Bam feels like this match might never be able to get called because neither one of the women are giving up with all of the things that they're being hit with this match. Neither one of them wants to give up. So Karen goes to the top rope and hits her finisher, Squish a Bitch, for the win. First of all, I love the name of this move, and I love the accessories. The sparkly hat accessories that are used for this move, I completely approve. As people already know, if they looked at the Ladies Wrestling Grio blog archive, or some of my podcast episodes of the past, the audio podcast episodes, I am a huge fan of Trisha Adora. So this match was not really to win me or Trisha Adora, as I don't think it was anyone else's. I had not seen much of Karen Bam Bam, but I am now a big freaking Karen Bam Bam fan. I mean, I am in love with her style, especially, and just, kind of hit me at the core. I am a huge Bam Bam Bigelow fan. Since I was a kid, especially him repping Jersey, I really loved Bam Bam for a long time. And one of the reasons why I loved him for a long time is because he really knew how to use his size. He will pull out these amazing moves that you would never expect someone that was as tall as him, someone that was as big as him, to pull off. So for Karen Bam Bam to be bold enough to use the Bam Bam moniker, even if it wasn't for Bam Bam Bigelow, I can't truly say because I don't know that much that went into Karen naming herself and in creating her character. But for her to know clearly, because she's in the wrestling business, what that name would carry and, how she would have to live up to that. She chose the right name because she is already in that league. And I will boldly go to say that. She is at the same level, has the same quality of work. She definitely knows how to use her size, her height, just as Bam Bam Bigelow did. And she truly won me over with this match. Now I want to see everything that she's done so far. I love how Bam Bam took Trish Adora to the limit. And I feel like Trish pushed herself to a higher height, and it was just a magnificent match. And the only thing I wanted to scream at the end was rematch, rematch, rematch. It was so good. And the other thing that I was thinking about is the controversy that could have commenced if this match was a title defense match for Trish with her Pan-African Diaspora Championship. If she had that title on the line and Karen won, how would that have gutted Trish to have lost this match? So that's another reason why I thought it would have been interesting for them to have this rematch, because it could have either made Karen feel very confident in trying to challenge for that title in the future, or it would have made her try to goat Trish into another match by making it clear that you were very lucky that your title was not on the line, because I would have won it that night. So, I mean, it could have been interesting to have a rematch. And right after the match, commentator for the night, Faye Jackson, comes out to the ring and really shows love to both women. And it was so touching to see the very kind words that she said to both Trish and Karen Bam Bam. And it just shows with her words how important this type of pay-per-view is, because many times you have these amazingly talented Black women that they bust their asses, they come out with these amazing characters, and many times they don't get the love that they deserve. So it was very nice to see Faye Jackson come out and make sure that she was giving them that love and giving them their flowers at that very moment. It was awesome to see. And that is not the only reason why Faye Jackson came into the ring. She had an announcement to make. She let everyone know that she had the privilege of announcing one of the matches for the next Black Girl Magik pay-per-view, and who Karen specifically would be fighting. Karen Bam Bam will be fighting at Black Girl Magik 3, no other than what we assume to be retired Faye Jackson. And when this was announced, the crowd went wild, and I did too. I was extremely shocked, because since Faye has announced, I can't remember if it's been a year so far, maybe a little bit more, that she would not be wrestling anymore, even though she would still be heavily involved on the indie scene in other ways, that she would retire from in-ring action. It seemed like there was a high level of confidence that wrestling would just not be an option anymore. So when Faye came to the ring, it was actually even, the comment was even made from Stevie Hardy on commentary that Faye Jackson should never say never. You never know if you might have to get back in the ring. And Faye made it clear, no, I know I'm retired from the in-ring action. That's just not going to happen. So I thought it was really cool that obviously she was just pulling the leg of the fans, and she knew that she was going to make it clear that now she really wanted to face Karen Bam Bam. Now I wonder how this is going to play out. Like if maybe Trish, especially because Trish does not have that many losses, if that's going to, kind of pick at Trish Adora's confidence, that maybe she wants to see if she can fight Karen again, and she kind of feels like she didn't get a chance to request a rematch, that Faye had already stepped in to make it clear she was facing Karen Bam Bam. But I would love to see that dynamic play if they were really going to play on the fact that Trish didn't even get a chance to see if she can conquer the immovable object again in Karen. But we'll see. But even with that, I can truly say, with the results of this stacked card for that night, and then Faye Jackson making that announcement that she will return to in-ring action, I am completely sold on making sure that I buy a ticket the moment that Black Girl Magik 3 is announced, and taking my butt back to New York if it's there, and seeing this in person. This pay-per-view was amazing. I would really recommend that anyone watching this, if you haven't already checked out this pay-per-view, check out this pay-per-view in its entirety on Untitled Match Network. It is on YouTube. You can see it. And I mean, that already is a treat that we're able to see this, because obviously there are great indie matches and shows that have phenomenal cards that if you're not there, you don't get an opportunity to see. So I would really advise that if you have not seen this pay-per-view, go to Untitled Match Network and look up Black Girl Magik 2 pay-per-view, and just just see the excellence that's in the ring, because you will not be disappointed with this. I also advise for people who have not seen this to watch this, so that you can be ready to support in any way the next pay-per-view, whether that be helping to sponsor the event, helping to sponsor a wrestler or a particular match. Of course, I think even if you're not there in person, buying the merchandise from the wrestlers, because it helps them a great deal. Obviously, if you're able to either travel or possibly already live in the area where the show is going to be, to go see this match and go see these matches in person and really show that type of support. This was just such a treat to watch and to cover, because this is a perfect example of what Black excellence is in the wrestling world. I loved seeing the awesome sponsors. For example, Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling podcast on the planet, being able to be associated in a great way and be heavily involved in this pay-per-view. It was very touching to me, because as someone who has worked with and has seen how much Women's Wrestling Talk, everyone involved in Women's Wrestling Talk loves women's wrestling, is so passionate about it. It was nice to not only see that they were associated with it, but see the products of Women's Wrestling Talk actually be a part of the event. It was awesome. I loved seeing, when I went on the Catch Magic Instagram page, how many other podcasts were involved in sponsoring the event and sponsoring matches. It was just awesome to see that support for this match, and everyone come together for this common goal of not just speaking about creating our own inclusive communities to support diversity in wrestling, but actually seeing that come into fruition. And I can certainly say for myself, especially when the Black Girl Magik 3 event is announced, I would love to put my money where my mouth is, to cover the event, and just keep spreading word about such an amazing event, because even though I'm a small guy relatively in the wrestling business, I feel that you don't have to be a big fish to be able to make a difference in just spreading the word and showing that you support something also monetarily for it to make a difference. So once again, I would advise, if you have not seen Black Girl Magik 2, please do so. It is available on YouTube now. You can see the full pay-per-view, so go ahead and check it out. I would say, if you want to see the pay-per-view, which you should, it would be even more enjoyable for you to watch it before this episode. Even though if you got into this part of the podcast, you didn't watch it first, but you would take joy in seeing it first, just so there can be better references to the things that were mentioned in this podcast. So that is the end of this week's Ladies Wrestling Grio podcast episode. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you check out things that are relevant to this topic that we had this week. And I hope you stay tuned for the rest of February, because we still have some awesome things coming up that are all surrounded by this Black History Month themed month. And I just can't speak enough to, first off, how hard it is to cover everything that Black women have done in this wrestling world, because there's so much. But I will try my best to bring out and highlight some things that I feel are a bit unique from the other coverage that you're seeing from other wrestling podcasts this month. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope that you will tune in next week. See you soon.